Welcome, welcome, welcome. Divorce Dads of America, the rebuild. I'm your host, Anthony Thompson. We have a good one here for you today. I've followed this guy for years. I have a guest today. We don't have a lot of guests. We have a guest, local Arizona guy, which I love. And as many of you know, health is a massive part of the rebuild game. Troy Casey's wild. You're not gonna once you look at him, there's gonna be a lot of things on the spectrum that you love, and some that may not be for you. But either way, he is a leader, and I believe that he's guiding things in many ways. He did the work on himself. He raised his kids. He's been through the fire that a lot of you guys are sitting in right now. And he came out on the other side with a body, a mind, and a spirit that most men half his age don't have. So is everything he does going to be your lane? Maybe not, but that's okay. We're going to get challenged. And here's what I know. He's going to challenge you. He's going to get you to think bigger. And you and I both know the challenge is exactly where you need to be right now. So before we go in, I want you to, as we do, take a breath, guys. Take a step back. I need you to open your heart wherever you're at. I need to open your ears. It says, he who has ears, let him hear. This is not about another consumption exhibit. This is about action. And I believe that the action today can change your life. And before we get into it with Troy, I just want you to know, those of you guys that have not subscribed on Apple or Spotify, subscribe. Why? We're going to reach and transform 1 million dads. I can't do that alone. Every time you click a couple buttons and drop a comment, the algorithm goes crazy. It sends it to dads that are in worse shape than you. And guys, I'm telling you, the stories come in and there are thousands of dads in worse shape than you. And so I want to bring Troy in here. And I first want to set you guys up because if you're not familiar with Certified Health Nut and Troy and what he's done, Troy, what were you doing before you got into everything that you're doing now? Give us a little bit of story there.
Well, I started out as a fashion model. I was a Versace model sitting in Milan. That's how I got into nutrition, fasting, internal purification, herbal medicine, etc. I started discovering what could help me look and feel my best. I was bloating, my digestion. I was a young kid drinking beer and pizza, and I didn't know anything. And it affected me. I had a sensitive digestion, and so I went down to the American bookstore, the English bookstore, bought a couple books on nutrition, read them, applied them, living in Italy, having farmers markets everywhere. I'd never been to a farmers market. And so I was like, wow, real food, that cool. And I started looking in the toilet bowl and I got, whoa, results. Okay, this stuff works, right? And so I've had a career in front of the camera for 35 years. I've been in social media for 20 years. Started posting 20 years ago on YouTube. I was working in the Amazon with an herbal company, had some very exotic footage, researching herbalism and doing ayahuasca with the Shipibo Indians. And so I started posting that up. So I haven't missed a beat as far as being in front of the camera. I did fashion, modeling, lived in Miami for a while, Europe, Tokyo, then moved to Los Angeles to start an acting career in 97. I was still drinking and using drugs. That's a big part of that industry. Sobered up. Vipassana meditation is the thing the healing catalyst that really helped me in 1999. And then from there, it was a progression of either studying with indigenous tribes that did healing, or just scouring the earth for, discovery. And then when YouTube came up, I started posting it there and reporting live from planet Earth. It's Troy Casey, you certified health nut. And everything's expanded from there. You can go to my YouTube channel and go back 20 years. So that's how I got started. When I was living in LA, I was working in film and TV, mainly for the money. I was doing television commercials, and that kind of dried up. My last big commercial, I think, was around 2010. And I was doing stand-up comedy and improvisation as well. And so I have an affinity towards laughter is the best medicine.
It is, brother. It absolutely is. And I know these dads that are listening here, we talk about the health side, but before we dive into some of the health stuff, I think what I always like is to allow these guys to not just see men bleed, but hear them bleed. And I guess for you and being divorced, and a lot of these guys in the middle of it, maybe post, can you share what that was like for you as you were going through that divorce in that time a few years ago?
So, I mean, it hurts just like anyone else that's going through it. Um, And, I use all my challenges in life to rise up to my inner work. And
Mm,
so, and it continues my awakening. It continues uh, the deeper dive into my soul, into who and what I am and what I'm doing here. And so instead of playing the victim, I keep looking to myself. So when uh, she was threatening divorce and separation. Well, it was common. We were just arguing way too much. We didn't have a lot of harmony between us, and um, so I started doing breath work because I was also sleeping on the couch. Right. Um, I think sex has a big play and intimacy, and when you're arguing, you don't get much of that. And then I started sleeping on the couch, and that's kind of demoralizing. It kind of beats you down as a man. And I was waking up at 4 a.m. Kids still needed lunches. I'm a full-time stay-at-home dad. I always have been, by the graces of my entrepreneurialism. And sometimes that's been good, and sometimes that's been not so good. And so I was waking up at 4, going like, "Oh my God, going to go through the divorce. This is going to suck." Um, and somebody taught me breath work and pranayama, and at that same time, and Wim Hof was coming online at that time as well. So I started paying attention to my own breathing mechanics, because breathing is the first form of nutrition, maybe next to the sunlight. Um, and we breathe thousands of times per day. So I started paying attention to my diaphragm. I studied with Paul Chek, and breathing is a huge component of that, reprogramming my breathing mechanics through my diaphragm, my pelvic floor, the transverse abdominis. And so I started doing 3 rounds of 30, 90 breaths first thing in the morning. And what I noticed is it cleared my head. And then I was able to get up, prepare the children for school, and then move on with my day. And so, like many guys out there, I had anxiety. I had, that can lead into depression. You can just go into a head trip. At the same time, I was meditating quite a bit more. I got on the path of Vipassana meditation in 1999, and that really helped clear up my alcoholism. I meditated for 2 hours a day and 2 10-day courses in silence every year. So 12 of those for 6 years. And then I got married, started a business, and had children, and kind of got off the path. And in 2016, I was invited to go do business with some guys that, had a little bit more money than me, were a little bit more advanced. And you hear it's, the 5 people that you usually hang out with. So I wanted to start upgrading my experience and hanging out with guys that were making more money than me. Well, they went out, we had steak dinner and cigars and whiskey. And I hadn't had a problem with alcohol in many years, but I made excuses and had some drinks, and I got a DUI.
mm,
And that was really painful, and probably another notch in the belt for the divorce. And so the gift that it gave me is there was an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting. So I had some court appointed things like AA meetings I had to go to, classes. And there was a meeting near my house by Noah Levine. He has a program called Dharma Punks, and they let the Alcoholics Anonymous, the 12-step program, have his space in the morning, 7 a.m. And boom, I was back meditating again. I stayed in that room for at least a year and a half, getting serious meditation in the morning. And actually, I took that all the way through my divorce. Right,
mm.
started the year before, and then took that through my divorce. So it did help me. It brought me back to more meditation, but it didn't stop the divorce. And that was a very challenging time. 2017, learning that breath work, helping
Yeah.
me doing the meditation. I also lost my license for a year. And being a stay-at-home dad, that affected me to be able to pick up my children. The good thing about that was nobody rides their bike or takes the bus in LA. So my children got a street level experience of coming back from the Palisades to Santa Monica, either on my bike or in the bus or both. Right.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
so, learning experience, but, real school of hard knocks, man,
Yeah.
um, that's what awakens you. And my
Yeah.
commitment, so we're almost 10 years into that. My commitment to doing the deeper work
Yeah.
just keeps going down the road. Now I'm 60
Yeah.
and, I'm meditating more. I'm forgiving more.
Yeah.
I'm being grateful
Oh,
for what I can. Um, I use this, Anthony, as an inside job to work on my own soul.
yeah. Well, you had a few words there I want to unpack, and you said something there before that just I know resonates. I know it resonates with me. You said 4 a.m. when you wake up. I've had several things of 3 a.m. guys. And one of the things that I just think is really helpful for some of these dads to know is, seeing your journey, you're past it, you're further along in the game. And I always tell guys like, hey, we want to throw you a rope for getting you across, faster while you grow so that you're not here swimming around in circles. And one of the things you said with the 3 a.m., I'm just curious because they say a lot of these probably the same things, but at 4 a.m. for you, do you remember some of the actual words that were in your head? What was that pain feeling like? What was that anxiety? What did it sound like?
Just looping negative thoughts and the reality that I was sleeping on my own couch, that the uncertainty. I mean, all fear boils down to fear of death, right?
Yeah.
And so we can have fear of destitution, homelessness, whatever that equate, losing my fucking kids, not having a partner as much as we fought. I love the woman. Um, and and everyone's got their own faults. I'd figured that out, ahead of time.
Yeah.
Everybody's got 50% of, they got to clean their side of the street and they're 50% of a
Yeah.
relationship. And so, I understood that. You can't get away with blaming the other partner, no matter how much they vaporized your bank account or called the cops and lied to them about whatever. And so, you still got to clean your side of the street. And so I used it all for an inside job. Remind me of the question again?
I was just asking you the anxiety thoughts, what they sound like, because a lot of guys will be like, "Oh, I was anxious, I was worried, I was fearful," and there's sometimes this loop, and like you said, it was negative thoughts, or it was, I'm sleeping on my couch, I'm homeless. For me, it was I wrecked my life, I ruined my life, and it was a replay, or it was how am I ever going to recover?
Yes.
What's going to happen next? So I just like hearing that from guys like yourself that have bled through it because these guys that are listening want to hear real stories from real dads. That was it. If any of those hit you.
So doom and gloom,
Yeah.
definitely destitution, being a fucking 50-year-old loser, not having his family, not
Mm,
having a woman, failing,
mm,
being a failure, bringing back a lot of my past failures. I grew up on the street. I was homeless as a kid. I was incarcerated. I've had my fair, uh, bunch of challenges, and I've grown from a lot of it. And the last thing I want to do is go backwards.
mm,
So just those feelings of despair. And I got to tell you, Anthony, I still deal with some of this. I'm back to practicing a couple hours of meditation a day because I can lose my own sanity. Right. And so, but I will add this to everyone listening out there. It is a big deal what's happening with these telephones right now. We didn't have these things 20 years ago, and we are being pinged. All my notifications are turned off. So the way I train my clients, the way I teach my students is to every ping affects your nervous system, and your
hmm
nervous system is connected to your heart rate variability, and this sends a message to the brain through the body and vice versa. It goes both ways, whether it's safe and you can relax and settle down. And right now, we are all like wired all the time. The pings, then we have fear of missing out. We've got the algorithms are catching us with a little bit of violence, a little bit of red blue politics, a little bit of, oh, that's fucking shitty. Oh, they got blown up. Then you've got some soft porn, and then you got, on X they've got hard porn, and so we're being pinged like a pinball machine, right?
Dude.
Bing bong, bing bong, bing bong, and that is a factor into there. So managing and mitigating your social media usage is very important. What I tell my clients, my viewers, is if you're not making money online, get the fuck off the thing, or join me in business, right? If you have to be on it, then utilize it for something good, right? Help me get the world healthy, or do anything that's productive,
Mm,
right? Otherwise, get off the thing. It's a major stress. Elevated cortisol creates inflammation. Inflammation causes disease. Disease kills dreams. And a big part of my elite coaching program is the legacy method. Legacy, dream, purpose. Where there's no vision, the people will perish. Man needs purpose,
yes.
right? I postulate that women having children is enough because the children is job number one, right? But we live in a world that's post-feminism, postmodernism, whatever you want to call it. And, feminism was started, women that get all into feminism, it was started by the patriarchy to enslave the women, right? And that's the end result of it. Not that women's empowerment isn't important. And if you read Rachel Wilson's book, she talks about women just wanted clean food for their children. They wanted to be able to, make lactate and make milk for their children,
Yeah.
having a safe enough environment. They didn't want all this fucking work for the corporations and the man and all that stuff. That was more of the suffragettes, the women that were homely and upset at that, and then the CIA and the Rockefellers got into it to bring in two people into the tax structure. So you're dealing with all of this just
Mm,
as a man. Most of that psychological warfare I just explained is invisible.
yep.
It's on purpose. MK Ultra, Operation Paperclip, Operation Mockingbird, Operation Artichoke. The food is poisoned. They're testing bioweapons in the water, the LSD, on unsuspecting populations. Like, this is real. This isn't a conspiracy theory. And what's playing out is it's all invisible,
Hmm.
right? And the advertising and the news is gaslighting everyone, like everything's just fine, it's like the Stepford Wives, or
Yeah.
everybody's got that permagrin on their face, like everything's just fine, and we're all just trying to figure it out here, and hopefully that brings some solace and some awareness to people, and we are never victims as men now
Yeah.
that we're aware, because man always knows what's on the horizon to eat and what could potentially eat them. And so now that we're aware, now we get to navigate the terrain a little bit different.
Yeah. I got something for you, Troy. You just said that is absolutely a giant virus. I talk about it in our community and with my clients as well. I call them pause, and we'll start with the first one. Pause going for porn, alcohol, weed, and scrolling. And I want to hit porn because you said it in soft porn, you said it in hard porn. Most of the dads that are coming into this have some type of exposure to it. Uh, their children may be starting to get into it. I would love for you to share and help these dads understand what's happening with porn.
So again, everything I talk about is going to be nuanced, right? And so,
Hmm.
and then I can only teach from the perspective of my own understanding and my own experience. So I grew up in the 70s. We were exposed to magazines back then, Hustler. All that stuff was still fairly new there. 60s was free sex revolution. There's been a lot to say about sexualizing a culture is usually the end, and the demoralization,
Yeah.
like the fall of Rome.
Yeah.
It starts with that. And so I grew up. I'm a product of the 60s, swinging 70s, hookup culture. This all came from 60s, 70s, 80s, right? Feminism came. 73 was Gloria Steinem and feminism. So there was also Roe versus Wade, I think was 73. So all this free sex, like abortion, and not paying attention to our responsibility. I talk about this because I'm waking up to this myself, right? I have counted in the past 9 abortions on my watch, right? And I know that all those women were upset at the time, and I was either drinking or I moved on to the next city while I was modeling or moving around, etc. And so, uh, and now as a sober individual that has children, I see the power and the ramifications of that, right?
Mm,
And a man did not sit me down like I am doing with my children now and saying, "Be aware. I'm not going to be able to stop you, but be aware." My son's 18. Last time I've checked, he's still a virgin. He's a stud. He's a hockey player, but he's very aware of what's going on. And he also played hockey and traveled around a bit. And some of the high schools, the girls were like, "No, you guys break hearts." So he got aware of that, and plus he's a raging testosterone teenager,
yeah.
right? So we have these biological urges inside of us. But I grew up on magazines, man, and um, my first time ejaculating, nobody taught me about that, and it was derived from pornography in the mind.
Yeah.
Fast forward, now we have it on tap. My
Yeah.
daughter was caught on the school grounds, like pull off the blinders, guys, if you're not aware of this at all. Porn is on tap for anybody who has an iPad or an iPhone. And I don't care if they're 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. My daughter got they were talking about it on the schoolyard, and one of the girls showed my daughter, and I got a phone call. And this was a Waldorf school, and Steiner schools, they don't have media. So I started talking to the teachers, and I said, "Well, you guys aren't enforcing the zero media policy." And so there was that conversation. But let's not be Pollyanna. Porn's everywhere. If your children have devices, and the number one parenting tool that I can teach younger men is keep the devices away from them. That's what Apple, YouTube, and Facebook executives do with their children. They keep
Yeah.
them away from the iPads at as close to 100% as possible because it's so encroaching. But don't buy them phones. Don't buy them iPads. If they're young, get them off them. And my children are very well balanced. My children have never been to a pediatrician. They're unvaccinated. I kept them off the screens for the most part until they were at least 13, until my divorce. And
Yes.
then, of course, the missus wants to buy computers and give them to be against me, right? And so, which is weird because we all invested in our Waldorf education, which was zero media policy at the time. So all this has paid off in
Yeah.
my children's psyche, in their who I am, in just who they are. They're also certainly, if they have the phones, they're not allowed on social media
Sure.
whatsoever.
Sure.
As far as producing content, again, porn and all these things can come through Snapchat. They can come through, whatever. And then right behind porn is the predators, and this is on Roblox and everything else. So we got to be very mindful of the technology, our usage, and then the usage, especially of the children.
Yeah. What would you say to the dads that are just on porn or casual porn users, and what does that do to
Yeah,
their physical body
yeah. Thanks for
and their mind?
keeping me on point. Well, it's definitely going to have a dopamine addiction component to it. So it's going to have an addiction component to it. You're going to get some type of biochemical polypeptide experience of numbing or feeling good.
Yeah.
And then if you're getting it from a screen, you've got electromagnetic radiation and pollution. We don't know all the flickering elements. Again, we are these are weapons, right? The frequency weapons, and the frequency that's coming out. I usually have blue blockers available if I'm staring at the screens all day long or under fluorescent lights. These do have an effect on our psyche.
Yeah.
None of what I say, Anthony, is a license to be neurotic, because neurosis is a mental disorder, and I'm holistic health, which is mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. And so none of this is a license to be neurotic. But now that you're aware, again, you know what's on the horizon to eat, and you know what can potentially eat you. And so you're navigating and managing and mitigating that as best as possible. So porn has an effect on the psyche to where we also can treat women like objects.
Mm.
Um, it also plays out, in the bedroom and what we expect and how we expect our women to perform. And I think there's some subconscious, unconscious elements about this as well, including circumcision, which we have many nerve endings at the end of our penis. And when we're circumcised, we have less empathy, compassion, and feeling.
Mm.
And I had premature ejaculation. Again, I didn't have teachings about sex. I've since studied sexual kung fu and Taoist healing, sexual healing um, um, protocols, Taoist protocols for not only prostate cancer, but also keeping your testosterone up and alive and keeping your junk flowing. Really,
Hmm.
prostate cancer is a real deal. And so from studying that and having greater understanding, I'm here to help and teach people and help them be more mindful about their sexual energy, which is the most powerful creative force we have as men and women. And if we're just giving that away to a screen, ejaculating in front of a screen, I mean, ejaculation, think about it. After you ejaculate, you want to go to sleep. for a man, that releases all your energy, and it has the power to make children. And
Yeah.
if you're making an Elon Musk type person that goes to Mars and populates, Battlefield Galactica and Star Trek, and goes into these whole universes, like, we have the power to create universes, right? That's the
Yeah.
power in us,
Yeah.
right? And if we're just wasting that willy-nilly, um, it's something to be mindful of. Again,
Yeah.
not neurotic, but how is this powerful? And then you can circulate that energy up the spine, through the pineal gland, down through your organs, and actually heal your body.
Yeah.
Getting off porn, being more mindful of your sexual use, being more mindful of having sex with women. I've been celibate for 4 years. I'm 60 now. At 56, I dated some women on the apps. That ended up being a dead end road. I realized there is no free lunch. I look back at all my abortions and all the women I ever had sex with and how dysfunctional that was. And
Mm.
then you look at pair bonding and women that have body counts as well. And then you add feminism and Kardashian boss babe consciousness. Women don't I don't need a man, right? And like, things are all messed up, like Pasta
Yeah.
Primavera, like, completely. And so getting back to basics, honoring our sacred sexuality, honoring that the sacredness, of procreation, and just putting our mind in a different place, as opposed to taking huge responsibility for our creations.
Yeah. When you said, I want to jump back in when you talked about vaporizing your savings account when you're going through that divorce, because that is one of the main things that I hear from dads that have worked so hard, things get split, vape, literally what you said, vaporized. Now they're looking at their life. Now they're looking at the timeline. And if you were going back into that moment of time for you financially and what that felt like, what was a couple of things, or maybe the best advice that you got, what you did during that season to rebuild?
I'm still rebuilding. So, okay, many nuances in this conversation too. So when I got divorced, a big component of our arguments were around money. And she worked in the fashion industry, and she was a buyer for
Mm.
boutiques in New York, which was an incredible cash cow for her, when we met. However, Amazon.com and Forever 21 stores were coming online, and people were purchasing online, and they weren't using the boutiques anymore. So she saw the writing on the wall in 2006, 2007. I was working with an herbal company. She was very interested. She's Korean. So she likes herbs, and her culture likes herbs. And so she wanted to get into wellness. So we started moving in that direction. I had a few commercials running at the time, in the early part of our marriage, and the birth of my son was 2007. And so she ended up quitting her fashion job, and then we had some hiccups in business, and she went back, and it was a completely uh, different ball game. So, and then we had black mold in one of our houses, and Google moved into our neighborhood. It was like a perfect storm. And so going and looking for a place in Santa Monica and Venice, apartment will come online and 30 people will be there to get it,
Yeah.
right? And you
Yeah.
don't know if it has mold in it. And so we ended up moving a bunch of times after that. It was just very stressful. So financial concerns, ups and downs in business, and so that was a big part of our fighting. And um, and so I worked, and I've studied success and personal development for, the better part of 20, 30 years. And so I kept working on my own, financial literacy, my own entrepreneurial endeavors, my mindset. And so in 2017, I was just like, we were still fighting about money. And a one bedroom apartment was like, we were staying in something that was 2750, a block from the beach, right? I wish that place was available today. Uh, and she was talking about rent, and I go, well, how are we going to afford two one bedrooms, which will be about 2200 a piece, if we don't have 2750? And she goes, oh, you're a 50-year-old man, figure it out. And that really hurt, you know, that really hurt. And I was like, okay. So we got divorced. We didn't have much at the time. I think she took the car, and the bed, and I took the couch and the table and the rest of the furniture. And I remember getting a loan for a Kia. Luckily, I had good credit, so boom, we survived by the graces of God. Right there,
Yeah.
there's some grace right there, and I got a credit card with some 0% interest, and I just wrote it out. My prayers were tight, but I really stuck my nose to the grindstone and said, I'm going to crack the code.
Yeah.
And 2018, I started getting more coaching clients, the real estate market. A lot of guys with money wanted to get their health on. A lot of people that were studying Wim Hof stuff wanted to study with me. And so my career started to come up. I wrote my book, Ripped at 50, A Journey to Self-Love. And that started coming out and everything started to change. My herbal business increased. And one of my coaches, um, he worked with Dr. Joe DeMartini from The Secret. And
Yeah. Yeah.
he did some really good stuff with me, and he said, look, put 10% away. And I'd done that before, but he really coached me on this. That's your money magnet. Don't touch it. Well, in 2 years, I had $63,000. It was a personal savings account. I started after the divorce.
Yeah.
And I was really proud of myself. It was the most money I'd ever saved up at all. And I was doing good in business. We launched my book. I moved to Sedona during COVID, and my son was a teenager by that time. I think he was 13. And I was sitting out around the fire at my house in Sedona. And I just figured I'd start showing my son a little bit of financial literacy.
Yeah.
This is my phone app. Here's my money. And I went to go show him my fucking savings account that I had, and it was fucking vaporized. It fucking blew my mind. And somehow, after we got back together, we got divorced clean and clear. Then we got back together, moved back in together. And she's pretty crafty. And she would always kind of handle the finances. And um, she must have put herself on as joint in that account. And I don't know why I did that. Um, but we were at the bank dealing with multiple accounts. And I think
Yeah.
she just snuck that one in on it. And whatever. I don't remember doing that, but that money was fucking gone. She took 30 grand and she took 33,000, and it was gone. And I was upset. She was upset. Um, yeah, and that was pretty devastating. Now I have to put myself in her position, right? She's a 45-year-old woman, or maybe approaching 50 at the time, and it didn't work out with us the second time around. And she's got to survive. I was paying for her apartment at the time, but we were fighting so bad. I think the fuck yous got so intense, and she, oh fuck me. Okay. And she went and
Mm-hmm.
just took the bank account.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're going to be investigated. Like, I thought like Chase Bank would like do some investigate. Nobody cared.
No.
And then when I went to go to the cops, she beat me to it, and she got a restraining order. And so the cops didn't even want to hear anything from me.
Yeah.
It was almost like I was being investigated and not her. And then she got lawyers. The one thing I will teach everyone out there before
Yeah.
the paperwork starts coming in, if you get a spendthrift, irrevocable, non-grantor trust, which aren't cheap, um, and I have the brokers that help out with that, you're protected. As long as it hasn't been done before lawsuits start, you are protected, and you're protecting all your assets for
Yeah.
your children, right? Because with that type of trust, you don't own anything. You are just the trustee.
Yeah.
And so you put it in the children's name, and then the children are at least are protected. And so, all's fair in love and war. And, you know, I don't want to go down the whole MGTOW, route with like, women and lawyers and all that stuff, but it's not easy. The whole court system, and I advise against it. If you can stay together as a man, keep your family together. It's important, because here's the news flash. I'm 60, she's 55. We're both lonely, right? We don't have, a partner in our life, intimacy,
Mm.
whatever. And whatever you think your little problem is, you can get through it, as long as people aren't hitting each other, and you know And then the rest is, even with me, well, God bless us both. And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So
Yeah.
I can only chalk it up as more spiritual work.
It's really good, Troy, and I just want to acknowledge you for just sharing the pains in there because those are real, and you have a few words in there that, again, I know because I'm getting hundreds of messages every single month from dads, and there's this word that's called victimhood, and I think you've been really good at being just. I think your personal development, your positive mindset is. I think you run through that quickly. However, you have all of the items that could make you the perfect victim. All of them, brother. You just listed 2 pages worth. Why did you decide not to be a victim?
Well, it's a dead end road. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, if you have any spiritual bone in your body, I mean, we are not victims, right? We're here for this human experience, and there's two forces guiding everything: anabolic, catabolic, masculine, feminine, inhalation, exhalation, yin, yang, whatever you want to call it. And so, and all the ancient sages have said to walk the middle path and to stay balanced as possible, whether that's through gratitude and forgiveness,
Mm,
whether it's through understanding and compassion, and that we're all connected and that we all have the potential for ignorance, and and we do the best we can. Look, a big part of my spiritual growth is anger that may have served me when I was growing up on the street, when I was younger as a kid. It could stop some predator in its path because I had a big mouth. Don't fuck with me, right? And so, but that doesn't work in your 40s, 50s, 60s, and
yeah,
maybe with your woman. And so those are long and hard lessons, I've had to learn. Right speech is in line with morality.
yeah,
And so cursing, and I've had my own fair challenges with that. The way I've grown up. Not that there's anything inherently wrong with cursing, and you can say a curse word and have it be extremely positive. However, um, there's nuances to the game, and some people get offended from that, and you can uh, you can hurt relationships with that type of language. And again, back to my growing up, whether it's porn or whether it's speaking like a truck driver, um, I can do whatever I want. We have free will, right?
yeah,
However, there are there are still consequences for anything, whether it's right or wrong, or you could prove it in court. It doesn't matter. If you get into an altercation with someone on the street and they hit you, or a verbal altercation and they hit you, that they may be in the wrong, but it doesn't matter. You got a broken nose.
yeah,
So there's always nuances, and I like to walk through the world on a tightrope, like a Jedi ninja wizard. Instead of being a victim, you're doing the Tai Chi through life, right? You're bobbing and weaving, and if you look at quantum mechanics, this is the wave, and it's also the particle, and we're coming in and out of consciousness and breathing through that whole time. So it's almost like everything's kung fu, right?
yeah,
Or the way of no way.
yeah. That's good, Troy. When you say that, a verse comes to mind for me. It says, "Count it all joy." It's in Hebrew. It says, count it all joy when you face trials and tribulations, for the testing of your faith proveth patience." And like you said, in all of those things, when you see what you're going through as the joy, and you also said something else that is one of the I think one of the most important steps that any dad can take in a divorce or in the midst of divorce or in life in general. You said this word forgiveness, and tell the dads listening, what did you learn about forgiveness?
Well, I'm still learning it, right? So, like I said, what anger, impatience, whatever my come from was in my teenage years, my 20s, my 30s, that has been my soul's journey to harmonize and move through that. And so, um, it doesn't work to be angry at people anymore. And then a lot of that forgiveness needs to come in to myself, right? That's self-forgiveness. We talked about anxiety and where that comes from. A lot of that times we can't really lie to anyone because we lie to ourselves first, right? So
Mm,
everything's coming through us, our internal dialogue, our impatience with ourselves, our chastising and castigating ourselves, like you fucking idiot, stuff like
mm.
that, that inner dialogue. And so, you know, healing that. And we could have been yelled at as kids and smacked around. And so we internalize that in our nervous system. And again, back to no victims, this is all spiritual fodder for our own awakening if we hear the call, right? And the call goes out to everyone. Not
Yeah.
everyone heeds the call. And so, okay, play the victim. And I know how much of a weak spot that is. We all witnessed that during the BLM and the George Floyd, and a lot of my friends in California, like they all bit the cookie. My children are amazing because they make big jokes about this because they're interracial kids, right? And so, and they don't play this DEI. They don't play any of that game, right? And the Koreans, they were massacred, raped and pillaged by the Chinese and the Japanese for thousands of years. And, I'm Irish. The Irish were indentured servants and they were treated worse than the slaves, right? And so never do I want to play that card, right? We're all in the same boat, just varying degrees. We're all human ultimately. And so I know I keep getting off on tangents, but
Well, yeah, you're a victim. The victim process for you, you had to put it down. You had personal development. You were seeing a way. You have all the ingredients to say, this sucks. I have all the reasons to point fingers at all this, and you took a step forward and you said, look, it's a dead end road, and I get that. And so that piece right there is a miracle of itself. And guys that are listening, this is exactly like, you don't want to hear this. Dads do not want to hear this. To just, oh, let them off. Let's forgive and move forward. And we're saying this because there is a way forward without these things that get you to where you need to be and go. And I want to put something your way here also about um, the gratitude piece, man, because there's so much ingratitude. I know that you talk a lot about gratitude. What do dads need to know about gratitude that they don't know?
well, just, I worked in the Amazon and you can see a lot of poverty down there, but there's a lot of joy and happiness, right?
Yeah, yeah,
There's a lot of innocence with the children down there and stuff. It's a very beautiful place. It's what inspired me to have children, was seeing the children down there. And so just put yourself in anyone's position.
yeah,
Someone living in Gaza, someone living in Venezuela, anyone who has oil, so Libya, Syria, Afghanistan. Just put yourself in that position and then look at your motherfucking house, man. It's like, holy shit, man, I live in Scottsdale. You know
yeah,
what I'm saying? It's
yeah,
like, oh my God, whatever I did to get here, I am so grateful. As much as I have anxiety in the morning or I get caught up in my own, head trip, or my business isn't doing the acceleration that I want it to in the moment, you know, there's so much to be grateful for. I live in vacation destinations. I lived in Santa Monica and Venice. This is what I tried to work with my ex-wife when she'd get so paranoid about money and everything else. Live in a vacation destination, eat only organic food, ride my bike at my will, spend inordinate amount of time with my children. It's like, okay, life sucks on some other areas, but that's about as good as it gets. And I have so much to be grateful for. So I have, I got journals. I can write things, 3 things I'm grateful for, every day in a journal. That helped me. I put that in my book, and
yeah,
I'm happy to send a digital copy to any of your listeners. But I put the exercise in my book for a reason. It helped my brother talked to me about it, and he studied with Tony Robbins for many years, and he was a heroin addict, and gratitude helped him. And so he challenged me to that. He challenged me 90 days. I think I did a year and a half. 3 things I was grateful for in the morning, and 3 things I was grateful for at the night. And I keep coming back to that over the years. That was 2017 through 2019. And, uh, and so gratitude helps, just the acknowledgement
yeah,
of I've got a brand new car. I've been in the Amazon and had to share a taxi with 9 people sitting on each other's laps. I
yeah.
was like, I didn't feel comfortable. That's not my culture. I didn't grow up like that. Like I got to sit on somebody's lap or somebody's got to sit on my lap. So I have my own car,
Yeah.
right? So I'm a little bit more fortunate than those people, right? So you really just want to juxtapose, and as long as we're fed and we have a roof over our head, and also that's why the meditation helps me so much, is staying in the present moment.
Yeah.
Like today I'm okay. I don't need to worry about, okay, when everything, dries up, or destitution or homeless or loneliness, or I'm okay right now, right?
That's good.
My children are near me. There's food in the refrigerator. I do have some money in the bank account. I have gas in the car. um, I live in Scottsdale. I mean, that's a miracle within itself, right? Because I see what's even in Glendale, much less downtown Los Angeles. Like there's plenty of places real close to me that people don't have what I have. So there's plenty to be grateful for. And
Yeah.
hopefully I can, and I have just as much anxiety as anybody watching at home. So the more I work on this helps me, understand and dissipate.
That's good because there's a few things there, Troy, that another word comes to mind, and you're sort of starting to kind of play around with it. And these dads that are listening, this is something that we go through in our group with a fast thing that we go through. But the first word is F is focus. And Troy, I want you to think for a second. Obviously, now you're down the lane. You've taken about a decade, out of that space. But as you were first getting out of that lane of divorce and not seeing your kids, how important was focus, and what would you have done different to focus on?
Well, I think when the family breaks up, and I can see the writing on the wall with the game playing with the custody.
Yeah,
And my full intention was to build my business as best as I could. And as entrepreneurs, that's like a prayer and a whim, man.
yeah,
I wrote my book. Like, there's nobody writing you a check for that.
no,
I spent $50,000 creating this thing, writing it, researching it, getting in shape, because
yeah.
it's
You're
called
ripped
Ripped
on
at
that, bro.
50. And so I worked hard. I worked my ass off. I worked with the forgiveness. I worked with the understanding. I worked with the gratitude, um, because those are things based in faith and grace, and we know that that's hard when you're going through the storm, right? Uh, but there almost is no other anchor. Um, and so if you have any belief in goodness, God and goodness are pretty, close words together. Same thing with dog, right? I got a dog now too. And so, you know, so you start to see the good, the God in the mundane,
Yeah,
in the simple, getting my lease for my car when I didn't know how I was going to afford that. Um, Having my children and putting our camping gear on the floor. That, I mean, what are you going to do, man?
that's what you
But you
do.
know what? We we camped. We enjoyed that, and not feeling bad about that, right? Feeling good about that. And I still have my camping mattress. And for a year and a half we slept on it. And that was it, but you know what? We were together. And I know families in the rainforest, when I worked in the Amazon, they sleep on dirt floors, or their hut, or shanty houses with a tin roof, so um back to the gratitude, back to those basics. And so I stuck my nose to the grindstone. I wrote my book. I kept on coaching. I kept on speaking. Um, just putting it out there more and more. I grew out my beard and my hair because as an actor, I always had a clean cut look.
Yeah,
And you know what? I just stopped caring about the way I looked, and I was healthy. I was in good shape, and I'm a man. And so the beard and the hair was very freeing for me as
yeah,
well. And it worked to my favor. Everybody's like, you'll make more money and you'll get more chicks if you just shave. And that wasn't the truth at all. And so there's a primal animalistic element
Yeah.
in there. And so hopefully that answered your
It
question. I
does,
go
dude.
off on these
How much
tangents.
no, it's good. I'm curious, looking back now, how much did that mean to you to just camp on the floor with your kids?
Well, it meant everything, right? So I've got a roof over my head.
Yeah.
I've got a very small apartment. We're still close to the beach, even though we were like a mile and a half off of there. I had my bicycle. I had a car to take them to school. It worked, man. Whatever grace was bestowed upon me, it worked. And then I worked every day, talking to people online. They're entertained by my videos, asking them, if they need any help with their health, being able to provide solutions for them.
Mm.
And, the internet's a grind. People look and see that I've got, a million or so people, on different platforms, and they think, oh, he's just an influencer. Hey, man, I work my ass off. I worked every single day. I worked when everybody laughed at me. I worked when my agent in 2007 was like, internet? I can't help you with that.
Mm.
That'll never, ever be. Right. And now it's
Mm.
like, I just got back from Hollywood. Creators are everything, and film and TV is over with.
Yeah.
You can catch some stuff on Netflix, but that's highly produced stuff.
Yeah.
But you're only as good as your last job. And if you know actors and producers and stuff like that,
Yeah.
it's a dying dinosaur. So, whatever inspired me back in the day to have sovereignty and make my own content, um, and now I'm the king. I'm on the top of the pile, right? Now, entrepreneurial endeavors and monetizing that is an animal within itself. But for 20 years, I have been branding and branding
Yeah.
and branding, and I've been consistent and consistent. And now it looks like I'm emerging as the OG in holistic health, the
Yeah.
OG in natural medicine. And so, which will be extremely valuable as Dave Asprey and all this biohacking stuff is just turning into gadgets,
Yeah.
gimmicks, and drugs, right?
Yeah.
It's drugs. It's all the new TRT and peptides and everything. And so,
Yeah.
um, so things that were hard and painful or couldn't see the vision back then,
Yeah.
um, when you're consistent, dream the impossible dream, right? The Wright brothers wanted to fly like an eagle, and everybody told them they were crazy. Man will never fly, it said in the newspapers.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs got kicked out of his own company, and now we all have these handheld computers in our hands. Um, and it was the crazy ones that really made a difference.
Let me jump in here as we start to land this plane. I want to go into a lane that is, I think, part of your bread and butter. I would say a lot of dads are. I always try and bring dads things that they can control and they can do, and whether it's emotional, physical, relational, just really tactical things that can change their life. And I know you're big on the food component, and I love for you to unpack the food component as it was you back in that day when you were going through that divorce initially, maybe the first couple years. What did you notice about food for you? And then also maybe tell some guys about food right now, maybe that they're not aware of or they know and they're just avoiding it because it's convenient.
Yeah, so I was already years, if not decades, into my organic food as a non-negotiable because I
Okay.
had studied nutrition. I came out of the Czech Institute with Paul Chek. He's the number one guy in sports fitness and strength training, probably in the world, but
Yeah.
definitely in the United States and rehabilitation, um, spinal cord injuries, stuff like that. He's an amazing rehab guy. So I was educated in the Czech Institute, and even before that, I knew the value of whole foods, organic food, natural food, and so that was a non-negotiable. It's been a non-negotiable for years. Otherwise, I get sick if I eat gluten or pasteurized dairy or any kind of chemicalized plain food. Like I've traveled before and you had to get on a plane and you're starving, your blood sugar's out of whack, and you eat what's available. So I already realized what gave me a food hangover, right?
Mm.
Drugs and alcohol are cool until they're not cool anymore, right? And then they create imbalances. Well, the same thing can be said with nutrition. So when it comes to sleep and it comes to organic food, I don't mess around with either, because that's where the anabolic phase, the feminine phase, the build-up phase inside our, masculine, feminine structure, our yin yang. There's two forces guiding everything. So I don't mess around with my food. I don't mess around with my sleep and my circadian health.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm of no service to anyone else, Anthony. I'm not of service to my children. I'm not of service to my clients. I'm not of service to the people that follow me online. And if I don't feel well, then I get angry easier. And I have anger and impatience is my catalyst. Your curse is your gift,
Yes.
right? And so my big prayer is I'm a humble, kind, and gentle man, right? Because the opposite has been dominant in my life. So I work towards, moving in that direction. And people don't change until you change ultimately. And they still don't really change. It's just that your whole perspective around them changes. So again, everything is an inside job. But when it comes to nutrition, and that's why I work with an organic superfood and herbal company,
Mm-hmm.
we have farms in Utah. We deliver straight to people's doors. I help my clients get farm to table if they don't have access to it in their neighborhood, or they don't have a Whole Foods or natural grocers. You can get it mail order these days. You can get wild Alaskan salmon delivered from Alaska. Polyface Farms, North Star bison. You can get this stuff delivered straight to your house. So it's a non-negotiable. Sleep's
Yeah.
a non-negotiable.
That's good.
Movement is a non-negotiable. These are all non-negotiables. And the more you work on yourself, remember, Anthony, it's the I, the we, and the all. You can't have one without the other. You have
Yeah.
to filleth up your cup so you can spilleth over to your children, to your job, to everything else that you serve. And then once you're filled up, you realize that you are connected to the we. And no
Yeah.
matter whether you think someone's right or wrong, you still got to work with them. You're still in relationship with them. And if they're not going to budge, that means you've got to be the ninja. You've got to be the Jedi. And then ultimately, we're connected to the all. And this is what I realized coming out of the Amazon, seeing the destruction down there, the two
Mm-hmm.
by fours going up to Home Depot, the barges coming out of the tributaries, and the sawmill with a mountain of sawdust going, I'm a man. This world is my responsibility. And we all know that the rainforest is being destroyed. It doesn't even matter about the rainforest anymore. We've got pollution, bioweapons, Venezuela, Libya, Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran. Anybody who's got oil, we're going to want to conquer it. And so this is an unsustainable element. And so it's my responsibility as a man to be the change I
Yeah.
wish to see in the world.
Yeah. What do you know about Lexapro?
Well, Lexapro is what? It's either an antidepressant or
Yeah.
SSRI. It's
Yeah.
probably an antidepressant. So
Let's
you
say
can't
let's say
find.
let's say hypothetically somebody comes to you. Here's a hypothetical. Somebody comes to you, they have low testosterone. It's a dad. Maybe somebody that I'm talking to, maybe not, but we'll just say it's hypothetical. They come to you, they're in their 40s, they have low testosterone, they're taking Lexapro. What do you
Mhm,
think?
mhm. Well, this is a very big and nuanced conversation. I must ask this man what he wants in his life. Because if he
Mhm.
truly wants balance and he
Yeah.
wants to leave a legacy and create something of grace and beauty, then he's got to dig deep in his soul to rectify what he's doing with those drugs. And,
Yeah.
we
Have you
all
seen
turned
people
our,
get off them?
once you're on stuff like that, it's a big challenge, and some of that is out of my league.
Yeah.
I've got other practitioners that I can work with, and I can outsource help with that. There's many conversations we can have on that. TRT, the more you're on synthetic hormones,
Yeah.
the harder it is to get off of it. Women as well with the thyroid medication. And newsflash, why do you think everybody's on it? Because they poisoned the food. They poisoned the water,
Yeah.
right? These are bioweapons. This is what RFK's whole platform is about, that the environment's poisoned, the food's poisoned, the water's poisoned, the sky is poisoned,
Yeah.
and this is affecting our hormones. I'm 60 years old. If I can do it naturally, you can do it naturally.
So
If you
so if they're on let's just say low testosterone, and we're gonna create a package, like somebody comes to you and say, hey, I'm low testosterone, I need to get that up. I'm in my 40s, and what would you kind of give them to do? What would that
Full
look like?
assessment, full assessment first. If you're
Yeah,
not assessing, you're guessing.
yeah,
So, what time do you actually get to bed? Because that's the anabolic phase.
good,
Do you feel rested when you go to sleep? What does your room look like? Is your Wi-Fi on? I dig
good.
deep, right?
Yeah.
What is the quality of food? Where do you source your food? What is the quality and where do you source your water, right? We're
Mm.
mostly water. So zeroing in on that because
What
people
kind of water
watch
are
it.
you? What kind of water are you getting?
Well, I have multiple, right? So first of all, I have a reverse osmosis system in my house,
Okay.
which zeroes out the contaminants,
Yep.
fluoride, chlorine, chloramide, and any kind of undissolved solids. That strips the water. That doesn't necessarily make it highly absorbable, so it
Yeah.
needs to be treated. I also have a distiller which even purifies it even more. And then I add minerals to it. I
Yep.
have a hydrogen machine and I have a vortex machine that actually just broke. After 20 years, um, it goes over a coral calcium charge
Yeah.
in a vortex in a tornado, and it aerates it and lowers the surface tension. So I'm a water tickler. I'm a water snob,
Yeah.
right? The highest, and I'm about to work with this company, is Alive Water. It comes out of an aquifer in Oregon, and it's distributed in sacred geometric glass bottles.
Yeah.
And they're about to distribute in the valley. I think they want to work with me. Alive Waters. You can find them on Instagram and alivewaters.com, I think. And so, and that has a shelf life of 60 days, right? It's
Wow.
living enzymatic, alive water. And so spring in glass is the best. Sometimes I go up to Sedona and get it right out of the mountain. Um, so so again, we've got to be like a water snob.
Yeah.
You do the best you can. None of this is a license to go neurotic, but you're 70% water, brain's 90% water. It's a good idea to get some clean water. I also have water purification. This is the Aqua Vibrance from the superfood company that I work with, and
Yep.
this will purify and nullify chlorine, fluoride, etc. Now, I don't drink tap water, but if I had to and I had nothing else, I'd travel with these drops. And so this gets all the heavy metals out of it. It makes them inert.
Yeah.
And then I have ionic minerals, which is ocean and earth derived ionic minerals, humic and fulvic acids. And so this structures the water and this cleans the water. This is part of my heavy metal detox program as well. And so tools in the toolbox. But everyone that lives in the city and that can afford it should
Yeah.
have a reverse osmosis system or a distiller. And you can also go to the health food store and fill up your 5-gallon jug. So you can
Yeah.
start there.
Yeah. Let me throw this one at you before we kind of wrap this thing up, because I you have a great heart, Troy, and I know that you've felt where these dads are at because you've been there. And if we took a second now and you took a step back, and there's these dads that are listening in a lot of different phases and places, and maybe what just kind of comes to your heart and mind, what are a couple things that you would share with these dads today that are going through it?
Well, first of all, God bless you. You're a child of God, right? And this is the hero's journey, whether we wake up to it or not. We're all being galvanized. Our soul is here to grow and crystallize, elevate, galvanize through our challenges. And so this is all part of the soul's journey. It's spiritual fodder for our own awakening. And I do think that our cultural situation has afforded us through pornography, through feminism, through circumcision, and really disconnecting us from our divinity and who we actually are. And we get lost in the sauce, and then boom, we're just in a culture. And I think all the ancient religions have had an element of teaching around man-woman relationships. And I think it's a real good idea to come back to the fact that we're all children of God and have better and greater understanding. And then the masculine element is here to protect and provide, and we're under psychological warfare. So the more understanding you have of yourself is the more understanding that you have of the we and the all. And that as men, it's our responsibility to transform this world and create something that is peaceful and harmonious for the women and children to evolve, for the species to evolve. This is a bigger picture. But if you're into any type of man stuff, well, then the buck stops here. There is
Yeah.
no passing it. It's up to me to change the world, as we saw with all these elections. And let's just face it, the whole thing is corrupt. And then we've got people that are running the corporations, and so how do you do this without shedding blood? Well, I mean, awareness is the first step in any aspect of consciousness. And so once we become aware of the totalitarian tiptoe, of the poisoning of the commons, of the poisoning of the children's food, of the poisoning of the children's body through the bioweapons, then we start to take a stand inside of ourselves. We start to have understanding and compassion of the psychological warfare that we're programmed against ourselves. I don't think when we were agrarian or hunter-gatherers, we had much time for maybe this type of toil in the mind. And now we are all modernized through this technology, and we don't really have as much time to go into deep meditation and contemplation and fasting and things like this. But a divorce can help you with that, right? And then
Yeah.
we come back and we have understanding, regardless of the status of the relationship now. Those children need guidance.
Yeah.
And I know everyone who says they don't want to use the children, they're using the children. They're using them for custody battles. They're using them for money battles. They get used.
Yeah.
And no matter what, dad's got to show up. And as they start becoming teenagers and their hormones change, because God likes novelty. So those children are designed to go and rebel. And if you don't have a relationship with them, they're going to be getting their advice from the pimp, the drug dealer, the hustler. They're going to be getting the advice from the wrong people. The guy that wants to have sex with your daughter, right? And so you want to be as close to them as much as possible. Proximity, the best parenting advice I ever got was a book on proximity. And you just want to, when they're young, they can't understand language and reason. So get them close to your heart. When they're older, they don't want to talk to you anyways. So get close to their heart. However, you can get close proximity of them to your heart, that's the job. And as men, like, that is your job, is stewarding it and protecting the children in this. Vapes, Celsius drinks have 200 milligrams of caffeine. They have sucralose in them. It's dangerous, right? They create imbalances. We want to talk about addiction and porn addiction before. And so most people are self-medicating because they're out of balance. And you can't find balance from synthetics. Back to the TRT and the drugs. They may address symptoms. They may
Yeah.
get you high in the moment, but what goes up must come down. So you want balance as much as possible. And you're going to get that from sleep. You're going to get that from movement. You're going to get that from deep breathing. You're going to get that from nutrition. You're going to get that from pure water. You're going to get that from forgiveness. You're going to get that from gratitude. You're going to get that from sunlight. You're going to get that from grounding. These are fundamental principles that are not going away ever, right? This is the
Yes.
universe that we live in. And those are my 9 pillars ultimately, and you get them in the book, or I have a free download on my website. But this is where you get balance, and from balance, then we can be of service,
Yeah.
right? And we can a good strong male that is in balance. Like, I have a martial arts friend, Savage and Saint. You guys should follow him too. His name's Michael Holt. Savage and Saint. He's Jason Momoa's kid. It's one of his trainers. But he was a bruiser and a bodyguard and martial arts master, and he can kill people, right? And he spends a lot of time in meditation. So it's a good idea to know how to be a savage, but you want to guard that as a saint,
Yeah.
right? And
It's
then,
good.
and if somebody fucks around, they're going to find out, right?
Yeah.
You want to be able to be both, right? And I think with my anger and my impatience, I've had to learn that. right? So I can be the sage or the benevolent elder moving into the next phase. I don't need to be somebody that's all jacked up all the time and ripped at 50, right? I'm moving into my 70s, my 80s, my 90s. I want to be a different human and be of service to my community, be of service to humanity. And that's not going to come through trying to look like I'm 20 and 30 years old.
Yeah, it's good, man. Tell us, like, these guys listening, give them a next step of where they can find you, what to do next. I know you mentioned a lot of different things, a lot of different places. I know the programs that you have, man. What would be most helpful for them? Where would you put them?
CertifiedHealthNut.com. That's my website.
Yeah.
I'm branded across all social medias as Certified Health Nut. So it's pretty easy to find. I've been on YouTube for 20 years. I put up a lot of daily content on Instagram and Facebook. I got kicked off of Twitter for speaking about the truth. So yeah, you can't find me there right this second, but I've been known to be reinstated. Um, so what did I say? Twitter. I got kicked off of TikTok, and so I think I'm on Twitter, but I'm easy to find. Certified Health Nut. Again, I'm happy to send a digital copy of Ripped at 50 to any man listening. My website has the 9 Pillars of Health. It's a
Yeah.
free download for your refrigerator. You can find my book on Amazon. My website. I have the audio version as well.
Great, dude. I just want to say, guys, you guys are listening. Listen to this a couple times. There's going to be some things in here that you catch that you don't catch the first time. And I do truly believe that. Those of you guys that haven't subscribed on Spotify or Apple, do it. Send it to a dad. Do something. Those clicks help other dads find this podcast. It helps us reach more dads. It helps us honestly save more lives and change the next generation. That's why we're doing this. Guys, I don't need you just transformed. You're a leader and you have, I believe, dozens, if not hundreds of people waiting for your transformation. I believe it starts here today. So I want to say thank you again for being with us. Thank you, Troy, for being here with us. I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next one. God bless you.